welcome to On the Bubble Podcast, episode 111. I'm your host, Abasa J. With me is my co-host, Yuki Lee Bender. Today we're going to be talking about the impact of high seas cards on CC. And we're going to talk about each of the heroes from high seas a little bit, and all the heroes that got a little bit or some support from the high seas set. But before we do that, how's your testing so far, Yuki?
It's been good. I've been playing a lot of limited. There's the US Nats calling coming up, which is sealed day 1 and then draft day 2. There technically is a battle hardened at CC as well, and I've been spending a bit of time on CC. Most of my time has been gone into Gravy. I've also spent some time onto Marlin, but I think Gravy is the deck that I've been enjoying the most, and you can expect some Gravy content very soon, probably just like shortly after US Nats. There will be some Gravy content going up from me. But yeah, excited to talk about High Seas impact on CC today. It's like super early in the format, and I think US Nats will give us a better idea, but it seems like a pretty powerful set overall. So yeah. How has your week been?
Yeah, I was able to play a couple of pre-releases, and honestly, Sealed was quite fun. There's just like a lot of things you can do. I feel like Treasure Island just gave the ability of the on hit, makes the game more interesting. Blocking becomes kind of more important than what it would be in like a usual game of limited. So it's your first couple of damage is more important than it usually is, and it's kind of really fun.
Yeah, I think that this format has like a really nice quality where starts out kind of slow because the heroes kind of need gold to really do their most powerful things. They need access to gold. And like you were saying, that gets blocked out early. So a lot of times you're like almost playing like heavy hitters at the start where you're just like sending sevens. And then eventually people like run out of equipment or they find a go again, or, you know, their hand doesn't block so well and people start getting gold. And then you start to get into these really powerful turns. And I think a lot of the decks can put together like 14, 16, 20 damage turns, especially as you start getting to second cycle and having a whole stockpile of gold. But what's kind of nice is that the games don't feel too fast, because I feel like some of the formats where you can do the 20 damage turns, the problem is like you run into like the busted Cinder deck or the busted Briar deck or the busted Phi deck, and they just kill you. And the game's like too quick, whereas like High Seas feels like a nice balance of like you have like the slow gameplay at the start and then you have explosive stuff later on, but it doesn't feel like you're just like dying out of nowhere.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think you summed that up pretty good. But yeah, some of the turns though after you get the gold is ridiculous. Mostly when like a player cracks like multiple golds, activates the hero abilities, they're up like 2 cards, 2 resources, easily over 20 damage sometimes.
Swiftwater Sloop is often part of those giant turns. I find two for 6 go again is a hell of a card.
Yeah, it's so true. And like on the turns your opponent attacks you for 20, you look at your hand and you're like, why do I have 2/2 blocks in my hand? It's like my hand doesn't even block.
Yeah, absolutely. What heroes did you play in Seal? Do you have any favorite heroes so far in High Seas Limited?
I played 2 pre-releases. I played a Puffin and Marlin. I feel like both decks felt really good, and at least at Sealed, I am completely disregarding the non-canon. I think I forgot what the bow was called. Is it called Manta?
Yeah, Red Spine Manta.
Yeah, I think Red Spine Manta I've been completely disregarding at this point, and I'm only been playing the canon for Merlin. I tried the Manta once, and I was just like, this just doesn't feel unfair enough for me to want to play it. But the canon did feel unfair sometimes, so I'm just like always gonna be on a canon, at least for Sealed.
Yeah.
And Puffin it felt really good. I think the key card in Puffin's gonna be Perk Up. We're not going to be talking about limited today because I feel like I'm a little bit too what's it called? It's too early in the format for me to really have any like solid takes. But I think one thing I can say for sure right now is that Perk Up is, I'm assuming, gonna be the best card in Puffin, at least at the common level.
Yeah, Perk Up is really strong. That's the one cost that gives your next mech attack +4, and it untaps your hero, so you can double activate Puffin, get 2 cogs to enable your turn, and then of course draw a card because you've cranked twice. Perk Up is really, really good. It also gets around some of the disruption. The tap effects can be quite troublesome for Puffin. So I've also had turns where I'm like, this is so annoying. I can't draw a card. I'm like, wait, but my turn still does something. And if I didn't have perk up, my turn wouldn't do anything. So it's like, still pretty good.
Oh yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, walk the plank. I got hit by walk the plank and forgot that it had an on hit. And I was playing Marlin and tapped my Marlin, and then I go, "Oh, I'm tapped now. The turn I was thinking of doesn't work anymore." I ended up getting out of that situation by like cracking 3 gold instead, but and I still had like a 14 damage turn after cracking 3 gold off 3 cards, and I'm just like, oh, this is just unfair. But I was gonna do like a 3 card 12 by getting like a gold harpoon, and I'm just like, oh, this turn's so good. Walk the plank hits me. Oh no, I'm tapped. What do I do? Panic mode, panic mode.
Yeah. The tap effects are. I was a little bit. I think I underrated them previously, and lately I've been pretty high on it. I had a Marlin deck with multiple arrows that tap when they enter. It was like a red spine deck, and I'm just like, okay, load this. Like, go again, load this arrow, tap you 4, and they're like, okay, and I like do it again the next turn, and then I have like a pump that gives an arrow on hit tap, and they're just like, please, like, stop tapping my hero every turn.
Yeah, it's more relevant against Puffin and Marlin than it is Gravy, right? Because Gravy you can just like activate in response.
Yeah, it's definitely less strong against Gravy. Although tapping Gravy's allies can be a very good way, because like normally you always have to kill the allies, but sometimes if he's low and you can tap the ally, it's just like, just tap it.
It's basically like blanking a weapon.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, those tap effects have been pretty impressive, and yeah, I've been really liking this set. I think all the heroes seem quite good. Gravy and Marlin are my personal favorites. Puffin is my project deck. I'm trying to work it out. I was very like, I don't want to draft Puffin. I'm going to give up on this hero. And then some of my teammates are like, no, Puffin's so sick. Yuki, you have to learn how to play Puffin. And I'm like, okay, I will try to learn how to play Puffin. So maybe there's still hope. I've seen some pretty disgusting things from Puffin, but we'll see. Unless I can get up to speed for limited or for Puffin by the calling, I might be trying to play a lot of Gravy and Marlin and Skirv if I get lucky enough to open him. I think Skirv is like maybe just the best hero if you get him early.
I think so. Well, even in sealed, it feels unfair, quite unfair actually. So I can't imagine if you like pack one, pick one Scurv that you're gonna get a bad deck, right? It's like almost impossible to get a bad deck with Scurv in draft.
Yeah, I was having this discussion and someone's like, "Oh, I pick one pack one Scurv," and like everybody was just picking the pirate cards, and I got cut. And it's like, well, if you get cut out of Scurv, you can just play a class. Like it's just I don't know. Like there's no way for you to like actually get cut out of it. Like if you just get to the point where it's like there's like only yellow strike golds left in the pack, like and it's still early and there's good class cards, you just pivot into a class and it's like fine.
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. It's like, oh, if all the pirate cards are getting cut, I wonder what's left in the pack. Powerful class cards?
Yeah, so I think Scurv is like probably just the best pick one pack one, but well, maybe like Conqueror of the High Seas. But anyways, outside of the M, Scurv is probably way up there.
Yeah. Maybe Chum, like the 4/6 ally is kind of messed up too.
Yeah, King Shark Harpoon is a pretty crazy bomb as well.
Yeah, okay. So other than the M's, at the rare rarity, I think Scurv is the best card.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I think that's enough about limited. Draft episodes will be starting next week when we have a little bit more experience with the set. Are you going to the calling for Vegas?
Yep, I'll be calling Vegas. I'm leaving on Wednesday. We're recording on Tuesday. I'm leaving tomorrow, and I will have this edited, and it should come out Wednesday night or something like that, Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll both be in Vegas. If you see us, come say hi. And if you're playing Nats or the Calling, best of luck to you. Or if you're, prepping for your own nationals, living somewhere else in the world, then good luck with all your prep. And hopefully this episode will help you out a little bit. Okay, so High Seas came out. We have 3 heroes: Gravy, Puffin, Marlin. Are you interested in any of these heroes? Where do you want to start, Jay?
I'm kind of I'm most interested in Puffin and like how powerful Puffin is. Do you want to start with Puffin, or do you have any information about Puffin?
I have a little bit. So Puffin's. I haven't personally played Puffin. I know people who are playing Puffin, and I've seen like Puffin decks in action. Seems like a pretty interesting take on mech that kind of goes back to like the mid-range value-based mech decks that want to play like a longer game. You get to just like draw cards off the crank. Polycranka is a really strong like onboard draw effect, and you're just like really hard to block out. The Zeppelins and the Cogworks dovetail and all the like pumping shenanigans and on hit untap your cogs, or on hit make a golden cog, which you can then crank and get an action point and like maybe draw a card, is all pretty crazy. And she's good at pumping them up and just making them so big. And it's just like, dovetail for 10, I have 3 cogs, like how do you want to block this? And it's just, yeah. So she's been pretty impressive. Palantir Aeronaut is a hell of a card. That's the 2 for 6. Like, I think it forces them to block with an equipment, and then if you act, you can give it +1 3 times, and if you do it 3 times, you destroy a defending card, so you can just blow up their equipment. Puffin does some really powerful stuff.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing, at least in like the greater grapevines of people talking about Flesh and Blood. And I think the one thing that's a question mark for me is that Puffin is playing all of these cards that don't have boost on them.
Mhm.
Do you think Puffin at least gets to play like generics, unlike the other mechs that we've seen so far, at least in the mid range or the aggro styles?
Yeah, I think so. I think you can go like a boost Puffin route. I don't know if I've seen any decks that are like super compelling just yet, but I'm sure that there's builds that exist. I don't know how good they are, but it seems like mostly if you want to leverage Puffin's hero ability, you need gold, and gold is tied to the pirate card pool. So you kind of have to play a bunch of these pirate cards to get gold. It feels like a significant, I'd say all the high seas decks feel like if you want access to gold, it's a significant portion of your card pool. Like you probably need to include like, I don't know, like 9 to 12 cards that are like making gold. You have some cards that make cogs and Puffin as well, of course. But yeah, you really need to commit to making these golds, and that means you're going to be playing a bunch of pirate cards, and then that kind of means that you're not going in the boost direction. And if you want to go in the boost direction, you're not really getting gold, is kind of how it feels like the card pool is designed. So it does seem like the decks are kind of like playing pirate cards, blue heavy. They'll have Conquer the high seas in their deck, and that really leans them into more of like a mid-rangey kind of game plan. And something that's kind of cool is I think all the high seas heroes play a lot like how they play in limited, except like much more powerful because of CC. But like the basics of like you have pirate cards, you have gold, they're doing their stuff with the gold is all similar. But you do have to work harder for the gold because there's no treasure island.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Not all of your cards have on hit create a gold on them anymore.
So yeah, I think Puffin is kind of the most gold reliant and has the hardest time making gold, but you do have Cog making cards. And I'll say the big asterisk on Puffin for me right now is Florian seems like a tough matchup. So I don't know. I think if somebody can figure out those like really defensive decks and how to kind of beat that fatigue, I've seen it get close, but it feels like Florian always just like gets there by just a little bit. But if somebody can figure that matchup out, I think Puffin can be like a real contender.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, then do you want to talk about the hero that you've been working on the most, which will, I guess, be Gravy Boat?
Yeah, so I thought I might be really into Marlin, New Ranger. We can touch on her later, but it turns out that I'm been very much enjoying Gravy. I kind of like these like graveyard centric decks, and Gravy gets to do that. You can expect content from me soon for Gravy, and I would say that in general, my list has been focused on having a lot of go again in it, and that's been very promising. So I'm playing cards like Red Swiftwater Sloop, blue and red swell, the saltwater. That's the red. It's a 3-for-1 go again, and if the top cards you reveal the top card. If it's blue, you pitch it. So it's kind of like a belittle that blocks 3, and always gets a blue. There's Conqueror of the High Seas, of course, it has go again, and then I'm playing red and blue Golden Tipple as go again, and gold enablers and all of that. And what I've found about this deck is by being proactive, you kind of get to do like you're almost doing like the Enigma thing, where you go like go again attack, and then the allies your finisher, you like rigor mortis them for 6 or sawbones them for 6 or something like that. And then you're like, do you want to like take some damage and then like hit my ally, or do you want to take a bunch of damage and then like hit my ally and hit me? Or if they don't hit the ally, you kind of get to either like do some blocking and then just attack with the ally as a super efficient weapon, like you get like a 1 card 6 kind of deal. Or sometimes if you have access to go again, maybe you have like a rum, maybe you have a Vasti that gives your ally attacks go again. You can get like 2 allies out and then really snowball the board. You're not as good at snowballing the board as illusionist, but I found that the go again just means like the deck can block well, it can convert well, and honestly, so far I've been really impressed. That being said, it's super early. There's a ton of matchups I haven't played, and I'm sort of like trying to figure out where the problems are. I haven't played into Jarl, who can break your compass, and I know can be a problem for the deck. Kano seems potentially tough. You have some pretty good pressure, but like your equipment slots are contested, and I don't know if you're fast enough to stop Kano. You do have a lot of blues though. Sawbones is pretty good. It's like an onboard has an onboard ability where you can just tap it to prevent a damage. So that's like kind of onboard spell void. So if you get multiple sawbones out, I could maybe see that being good into Kano, but you might just die before you get there. It's tough that you're a deck that like wants to play blues and play these big turns against Kano, who punishes you for tapping out.
That makes sense. Yeah, the way that you explained your deck so far, it kind of sounds like how the Enigma deck ended up evolving into, right? Like this is a little bit different.
It's kind of like reverse Enigma. Like Enigma had go again auras into attack finishers, and I feel like Gravy has go again attacks, and the allies are your finishers because your allies outside of Limpet don't have go again. But it is still in a way like very similar.
Yeah. At least the way that you were explaining it, I was just like, oh, you're getting attacked for 666, and I'm just like, that sounds kind of familiar with like Enigma attacking me for 666, and then the game just like falling out, and you can't really do anything after that. I guess it is a little bit better though, in the sense that like the allies will be cost something to attack, and like you don't actually have to kill all the allies that comes out because, as you said, there's not that many go again inherently on the card, right? Unlike Enigma did.
Yeah, and I think you get more options against Gravy. Like you can potentially like block 2 to 3 cards and then clear an ally, which is not something you ever had the option to do against Enigma because if you just have 1 card, she'll just block you out. But because you can attack the allies directly, you do have the option to just block and play more defensively, which does give Gravy full tempo, which is why I've liked all the go again, because sometimes people just block and then they just clear your ally, and if you can just kind of keep hitting them and playing allies and they just keep clearing your allies, it's not like a super winning proposition for them, but they can do it for a while. And I think some of like, especially Jarl, who can turn off the go again by breaking your compass, I think there are some decks that kind of slow the game down against you and can threaten to fatigue. I don't have enough experience in those matchups to say for sure like how good or bad it is, but it seems, I think that the slow decks have far more play into Gravy Bones than they do into Enigma. Like Jarl just didn't have a game into Enigma. Florian didn't have a game into Enigma, and we'll see where it winds up as lists evolve, as more testing happens. But in theory, it looks like you can maybe do something as the slower decks.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing, and that sounds promising, at least for I'm a player that plays a lot of slower decks, and Enigma was just awful. So I'm hoping that Gravy games are going to be at least playable.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see, but it does seem like Gravy's potentially quite a well-designed. I'm going to put like illusionist in air quotations. He's a necromancer, but board state allies feels illusionist-y at least.
Yeah, create a board dot deck. What do you think the Gravy's worst matchup is currently?
So I'm not sure. Like I've heard that like Kano's potentially rough. I've heard that like Prism's bad because she can send her heralds into your allies and then get the on hits. But it's also like 2 cards for her to do that. She does get her angel. I don't know. I have to play it. I know that I thought like I feel like the allies are like sneakily good. Like you would expect Ninja. Like I played against Katsu, and you would expect that to be terrible because of Mask of Momentum. And I don't know if it's a good matchup for you. You're probably unfavored, but you have a lot more play than you think that you would. Them just like spending resources into your allies is often gives you angles of attack. So yeah, potentially Prism, potentially Kano. I could see Azalea being not good at all into Gravy Bones, and I could see her being great with access to Red in the Ledger, and you just keep dominating and kill them. And so yeah, there's matchups I have question marks about, but I haven't. I guess it's still early because I've been playing mostly limited, but in the CC testing that I've done, I haven't found a reason to not play Gravy Bones yet. But there's matchups that could be problematic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We're very early in the testing stages of the set, right? Like the set's technically not out until next week.
Yeah, yeah. I know people are very like excited because US Nats is coming up and there's like this huge like people grasping for information. But I think keep in mind that if you feel like you don't know exactly what's going on as you're going to US Nats, the good news is I don't think anybody does. It's just very hard to say. And I have some games on Gravy. I'll probably play Gravy at the Battle Hardened if I end up having to play the Battle Hardened. But most of my Gravy games have been into people's like Puffin decks and Marlin decks that they're trying out, or just like whatever new builds people are trying. We're still kind of like at that stage. Is not so much of the like rigorous like let's put this deck through the ringer and find all the problems just yet.
That's fair. That's fair. I was just gonna ask about Azalea's Red in the Ledger. Did that card have to hit a hero, or did it just have to hit?
Has to hit a hero.
It has to hit a hero. Okay, so you can't just like hit an ally and be like, "You have no action points."
No, 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 no. That would be pretty good.
Yeah, that would be just toxic, I think.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's Gravy. I think Gravy's really promising. My gut says that Gravy is probably a good hero. But who knows? We'll see. It's still super early. That's my speculation.
Then what about Marlin? Is that's the last hero from the high seas like trifecta? At least that's legal in CC, right?
Yeah. So people have been really focused on these Death Dealer builds with New Horizons as doing like a pseudo Lexi impression. I don't know. I don't believe in these decks. I think they have a high ceiling. I think they can do a very broken thing. They're super fragile to disruption and they're just like kind of inherently inconsistent. Like for all the games they do something really busted, they also can just sit there and kind of do nothing. The deck can't really block. You draw a bunch of cards, which feels really powerful, but it also means you don't know the cards that you're drawing. And sometimes you're just like, wow, I drew like 3 blue arrows. It's just like not that good. Or like you have a turn and you're like, whoa, that turn was really sweet. But like I didn't have rain razors. So like even though I went 4 arrows wide, it's just like, I did like 4 4 4 4 with like no on hits. And it's like, okay, it's like fine. And you don't really have the ability, like you're not Lexi where you can like flip up your arsenal a card and just set up. You're really constricted by like Death Dealer needing an open arsenal, being able to clear your arsenal when not all your attacks have go again. It's just like the deck is like super clunky and it's very hard. Like it feels very much like you need to draw into things in the right sequence and have them line up rather than you can Lexi where you can kind of sit there and sculpt your arsenal, sculpt your hand, and find that pop off turn like just basically every time.
I guess that it does make sense. One of the most powerful lines was as Lexi was to just like flip up your arsenal and just arsenal a new card pass, draw 4, and then set up like a 6 card hand. And Marlon really doesn't have the option to do that freely, right?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, just overall, I think it's pretty clunky. The main thing that you get out of being Marlin and using the Death Dealer is you get extra loads, but often you're just declining the loads anyways because you get loads off of gold. You just have like so many loads that you can't use them all, and it sounds great. I'm not sure it's that great in practice. I think the better Death Dealer in New Horizons deck is probably Azalea. We'll touch on her later, but my current take is I don't know if this deck's broken. I think Azalea is going to be gone pretty soon because I think she's quite strong, and someone else can figure this out. But I'm kind of done spending time on it personally. I haven't been super impressed. The other build that it seems like they kind of want Marlin to lean into is the cannon build. This sort of plays into the gold generation cards, the pirate cards, the hook to get gold. So you're kind of building into that whole package once again, as the other high seas heroes seem to do. And you get kind of these big overpower attacks. King Shark Harpoon and in some matchups, King Kraken Harpoon are fantastic. You basically get to send Thunderquakes with overpower and like a pseudo Thoughtseize on hit. Yeah, it's good. I think it's not the most exciting deck, but it's very consistent and it's pretty solid. I kind of wonder if there's. My current theory is that I think Golden Tipple is the best card in Marlin because you can make a Goldfin Harpoon, play Golden Tipple, attack for 3, go again. You replace the card, you get a draw, and then you can activate the hook. And the hook on hit is free because you've made a gold off a Golden Tipple. So even if they block it out, um, you don't lose the hook, and if they don't block it out, you get the gold. So you just kind of get this free on hit as well. So Golden Tipple, really strong card. It has a similar play patterns in Gravy where you loot away the allies, but in Marlin you just turn the Goldfin Harpoon activation into a whole card, and yeah, like the gold replaces itself, then you potentially go up a gold with the golden hook. It's a really strong engine, and I think that there should be like a Golden Tipple cannon or death dealer deck out there, but everything I've tried to put together so far, it hasn't quite felt like it's good enough. So I don't know. Maybe that'll be something people figure out, or maybe it's just like too many moving parts. It's really hard because like you have the arrows, you have the pirate cards, you have the Golden Tipples, and it's like, how do you find space for it all has been the challenge.
That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I guess that does make a lot of sense that maybe like a 9 Golden Tipple deck is kind of where you want to be. Like, you know how like Rangers usually are, like, they play like 9 copies of some random card. Like, Lexi was like Bolton Shot that was kind of messed up in that deck. And maybe Golden Tipple is the replacement of Bolton Shot, and you're going to be playing 9 copies of Golden Tipples and just trying to convert your golds into real cards. Because, like, if Golden Tipple is just, like, purely a draw, like, 1 for 3 draw a card to create a gold back is kind of insane.
I think the blue's good in Gravy because it turns on the watery grave cards. In Marlin, I like the reds and yellows as like a 3 go again, 2 go again. The blue's fine. I don't know if the 1 damage is great.
Yeah, it's a 1 for 1. It's a 1 for 1 draw card.
It's like a Kodachi. It's okay.
Yeah, it's a free Kodachi. It's like, it's 1 damage.
Yeah. It's all right. If it block 3, very good.
Yeah, if it blocked through, the card's messed up, Yuki. What are you talking about?
That's fair. I guess what all I'm saying is like I don't know if the blue one makes the cut, but I think that the reds are certainly good enough, and the yellows are probably good enough. Is like currently my take. The blue ones are pretty good at clearing Gravy Bones allies, though. So if Gravy Bones is a thing and they're playing like Rigor Mortis, Limpet, yeah, maybe the blue ones are just sick. I could see that. So who knows? But yeah, that's kind of Marlin.
Only if we had a specific landmark that gave all of your attacks an on hit, maybe called Treasure Island. Oh man, then blue Golden Tipple, that sounds really good.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, so I guess you're writing off Marlin for now, and
yeah.
So those were the 3 heroes from High Seas. You said you're most likely gonna be playing Gravy. What about the other heroes that got support from the set? Who's a hero that you're most interested in, or at least thinking about testing? Who got new cards?
I don't know. The game's in like a weird place where I'm not sure like how many CC decks I'm really excited about. Besides Gravy Bones, Gravy Bones is like the most fun I've had in CC in a while, so I'm pretty excited about that deck. There's a lot of other decks where I'm like, yeah, they got some stuff. I don't know if I'm super seriously considering any of them. I guess where I've spent the most time is Azalea. So I mentioned New Horizons. You get access to Swift Shot, which is at 0 for 4 when it gets loaded face up. You get Go Again, and you also get Call in the Big Guns, which is a +3 pump that puts an arrow face up into your arsenal. And notably, it works with New Horizons. So if you have a card face up, you can call in the big guns, load, let's say, like a Swift Shot or a Bolton Shot next to it, and potentially get multiple arrows. So I found that this deck can kind of do the Azalea big arrow dominate thing, like most Azalea decks do. You get access to Heat Seeker as like a really good value based on hit. That's the on hit. At the end of the turn, you put a card from the top of your deck face up into your arsenal. So you just kind of like on hit draw a card, potentially get a double arsenal, and then you can potentially play into these like I've seen a lot of people playing like 9 Bolton Shot, maybe Sikkim Shot, and or like Falcon Wing, something like that, and then the Swift Shots as well. So you can kind of get to these like 2-3 arrow Rain Razors turns, and you'll have like one of those in the game, and then the rest of the time you're Azalea, and that seems like a pretty good place to be. I kept losing the Warmongers, so that's kind of why I don't want to play this deck. But when they don't Warmongers you, the deck's great.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Warmongers is still getting into Azalea and will continue being good against Azalea.
It might be even worse for her now because I feel like so much of the time you have this like random face down card that's like not necessarily good, and your plan is just to blind Azalea face up and then kind of go from there and figure it out. But when you get Warmonger, it's just like, oh no, like I have some random garbage in my arsenal. My turn doesn't function. Like, why do you do this to me?
I have a question about a specific card that got released in this set that I think a lot of people are going to be trying. What's your take on Return Fire? This is the Ranger block card that blocks for 4, and it reads, when this defends, you may banish an arrow from your hand, and if you do, at the start of your next turn, you put it face up into your arsenal, it gets +3 until end of turn. So this on its own is reading as a 7-point card. Do you think this card is going to make the Ranger decks?
I think this deck is really good in the cannon builds of Marlin. It is probably really sick in Riptide, I would imagine. It has to be good in Riptide. And then in Azalea, I've seen some people playing with it in the New Horizon build. It's a little bit sketchy. It's like a really bad ponder. It does work with New Horizons in that, like, if you have an open arsenal, you can do that, which is like kind of cool, but you might not have the go again. I'm iffy on this card in Azalea, but I think it's really good in the cannon build and really good in the Riptide deck for sure. And maybe the Death Dealer New Horizons build. It's like powerful enough that it's worth considering, but it is on the clunky side. And Ranger is already a clunky class, so sometimes the powerful but clunky cards, like there's a lot of classes where you're like, this is clunky, but it's powerful enough that I'm willing to make it work. But Ranger is a clunky enough class as it is that sometimes the clunky cards are just yeah, a little bit too much.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. So you're not like a huge believer on Return Fire anymore.
Not for Azalea. For Marlin and Riptide, I think the card's fantastic.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, but when we first read this card, or when I first read this card, I was just like, this is a 7-point card. That's kind of crazy. But I guess in practice, this card isn't definitely broken as it reads.
Yeah, it's tricky because Ranger tends to ponder a lot because of like Premeditate and Codex of Frailty, for example. So if you have a card in Arsenal, then you don't get the +3. And then, like, if you have a card face down in Arsenal, you don't get the +3. And then, like, you can trench away that card, but then, like, what are you doing with the resource? Because you have to trench on your opponent's turns. Like, that's not great either. It's not a good ponder, also. Like, you can't really stick this card in your arsenal. So it's really powerful. It has some costs. I think in the right deck, it can really shine. But yeah,
Not an Azalea card.
I don't think so. Maybe you can make it work, but I don't know. I'm not a believer.
Okay, that's pretty reasonable. That's a pretty reasonable take.
What about you? Are there any heroes who got support that you are thinking of playing or interested in?
I think the main card that's excited me the most is Riches of how do I pronounce this card? Tropodani?
I think that's right.
Okay. So this is the Fabled from the set. This pitches for 2. It is a resource gem and legendary. It says when this is pitched, you create a gold token. It doesn't sound like it's kind of crazy, but there's one hero that does kind of make it crazy, and that's Victor. Because Victor just reads whenever you create a gold token, you draw a card. So what this card ends up reading is you pitch this card and you get to draw a card if you've pitched it. Makes it the most powerful gem in this game, I think. maybe next to like Chaosism that could go wrong in a lot of different ways. I think the easiest way to describe this card was if you have a gold token on board as Victor, you pitch this card to crack a gold, you create a new gold token, and so you draw a card off the gold, and then you draw a card for creating a gold. So this is a tome with Go Again that draws two cards. They've banned every copy of the tome that's been available so far, and they just gave Victor one of them.
Yeah, it's just like a zero cost draw two, which is incredible. You can also use it as make two resources, draw a card if you're like wanting to go up on gold and maybe set up like gold main estates later. Or you could play a gold main estate off of this, I guess, and you'd only draw one card, but you would get two gold and you get the extra might.
Yeah, and what's crazy is like my favorite play with Riches is like a 3 card hand. You arsenal a Spinal Crush, you block for 6 or 7, and you leave yourself with 2 cards, a blue and a Riches. You pitch 5, play Spinal, you create a gold, you draw a card, you arsenal the card you draw, and you're just like 3 card 9, draw a card. On hit, your opponent loses Go Again. This is insane. Like it doesn't sound insane, but like that's just like 3 points of value. You just got a ponder token for free. Like, people work so much harder for a ponder token the non-ranger assassin classes.
Yeah, no, the card seems like a slam dunk in Victor. I think Victor still has some problems into new, but if you don't face news, Victor's probably pretty good right now.
Talking about new though, doesn't all of the high seas heroes seem to have some problems against new? Because don't they all want to play blues?
I'm not really sure. I haven't played enough of those matchups to say. They do all want to play blues. I don't necessarily think all your blues are that scary for new to have. Kind of depends which ones you're playing, but I think a lot of the blues are like acceptable for new to have. But there's a few that are maybe a little sketchy. Like if you're playing Murderous Rabble, that one's probably kind of not good to give her. Sloop, if you're playing blue Sloop, it's probably a little scary. If you're playing like blue Bark, that's really bad, but most lists I haven't seen playing blue Bark, and you can pretty easily just not play that for now. So I think they are blue heavy. You will get hit by Siren's Call, but I think you can build a pretty safe blue base at pretty low cost. Like Gravy Bones, like a lot of the blues are like your next ally, like attack does something, or like, yeah, I don't know. Some of them make resources. There's quite a few that make resources, but like New's not that good at using extra pitch.
Well, yeah, you don't really care about if new plays like Give No Quarter, right? This is the next 2 ally cards with Watergrave you play. This turn costs 3 less to play.
Yeah, I was thinking about like Saltwater Swell or something if she gets like essentially like 3 extra resources. It's not great, but like she has a bunch of silver. It's probably bad for you, but also I don't know.
Oh, this is a question. Okay, we're gonna go back to the gravy versus new a little bit. Do you cut your chart the high seas against new?
I have no idea.
Because if they banish a chart the high seas, they have like 2 silvers lying around. They activate New's ability, play chart the high seas. They're probably gonna have 2 blues off the top, so they're gonna get 6 resources just by playing chart the high seas. 2 silvers is draw 2 cards.
No, they can only ever get 3 resources.
Oh, you can only pitch 1 blue. Oh, okay.
So they'll probably mill a card, pitch a blue. It's good. It's definitely good. I don't know. I don't know if it's like you can't play them into new. I'll have to play games. We'll see. I think it's probably acceptable.
Okay, look, we're Canadians, so US Nats is coming up. It's worth 50 points. If New gets 50 points, she's allowed, right?
Yeah. If she wins, I believe if she wins the Nats or she wins calling Bologna, she's just gone for our Nats.
Okay, so you're just hoping that somebody just like takes New to one of these events and wins with it, so you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, that would be ideal. Honestly.
I'm really hoping for that too, because I really want to play Victor. I don't want to play against the New.
Yeah, super fair. I just want one less deck to test against, honestly, but I don't know. Okay, let's get back to the heroes that got some support. We mentioned Victor, we mentioned the Riches being really good, and Kasai, same thing. Kasai likes having access to gold. It's probably not quite as powerful in Kasai, but Kasai does like to crack the gold, draw a card, then her sword swings are free. That's something that she does, or she uses gold for raise an army, and that can be powerful in some of the slow matchups. So I don't know if this is like an every matchup card for Kasai, but certainly into the slow decks where you're trying to raise an army, it seems very good. And potentially just in all decks, she plays a bunch of yellows. You're kind of functional off of a yellow pitch. You like cracking gold. This makes gold. She won a battle harden recently. I don't know if I like really believe in Kasai, but this card certainly makes her better.
Okay, that's pretty reasonable. There really isn't that many more cards that Kasai got other than riches though, right?
It's just riches from this set, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I haven't really heard of Kasai recently, but I guess it's like slowly creeping up the power ladder as the super powerful deck's been living legend out.
Yeah, she's good into new. I don't think she's so good into Florian. Yeah, she won the battle harden, which is the biggest reason I'm mentioning her, but I think that might be Andrew Rothermel being a very good player more so than Kasai being the next best deck, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see at US Nats, I guess.
Then what about the other warrior, Bolton? The reason I'm mentioning this is one of my friends was just complaining about how Bolton is like really good. I don't know if I believe him or not yet, but do you have any ideas on what Bolton does right now?
I will say that Bolton is a lot better after this set. It's hard for me to say exactly how strong I think he is, but I think he is at least one of the better aggro decks in a format that is not defined by aggro currently. So take that with a grain of salt. I don't know if he has a good Florian matchup. I sort of suspect not, but he does some very powerful stuff, and I think he's a hero to keep an eye on. The card that I guess he got a couple cards. The biggest card that he got is NIMBY. This is a 0 for 3 that when you attack with it, you can search a Nimblism. Nimblism is a pretty good effect in Bolton already because you can buff up an attack. You have a bunch of on hits. You buff up like a Bolt of Courage. So then it's for 6 and it has on hit draw, and you can give it go again because its attack's higher than its base. You kind of, you're sometimes you play these +3s, not exactly Nimblism, but there was like other +3s that you sometimes played in Bolton anyways. So swapping that to Nimblism and getting them for free off of NIMBY is pretty huge. Similarly, you can play the Jack Be Quick cards with the Nimbies and the Nimblisms as just 4 go agains that block for 3, which is really solid. And all of these cards kind of function when you don't have charge cards. You can still play some of these turns. I've seen some turns where Bolton just goes like Nimblism, Jack Be Quick, and it's like you bricked on chargers, but you still did 10 damage with go again, and that's like off 3 cards, which is like super solid. So I think that this engine is like really powerful, and NIMBY in particular is kind of a messed up card. And Bolton, I think, is, I want to say, the best hero right now at giving NIMBY go again, because anytime NIMBY has higher power than its base, you just have give it go again, and he's also pretty good at making quicken tokens, which can give it go again. So yeah, when you're casting NIMBY with go again, it's pretty broken, and the deck already likes Nimblism, so it's a very good fit. It's a very big power bump. I think like Florian and New are the big questions for the deck, but it's scary. It does a lot of damage.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, if you can give NIMBY go again, the card is a 0 for 6, so makes sense. Makes sense. It's how you can abuse NIMBY or not, right?
Yeah, I've seen some people trying to put this in Ira with like, what's that card called? Even bigger than that. I don't know if I believe in that quite as much as I believe in Bolton playing this card, but NIMBY is a strong card, so I think NIMBY is a card to keep your eye on, and just sort of, if you have a deck that can give NIMBY go again and is okay playing Nimblisms, it's probably worth considering because NIMBY is just like really strong.
Yeah, makes sense. And I guess the last hero that got a support on its own, like from high seas, is Brutes. I didn't notice this until you put this in the show notes, but you're right. There's a card called Sea Legs. That card has 6 power. It's a yellow and has an ability if it got discarded. What does Sea Legs do again?
So it's a 3 for 6 block 3 yellow, which is a stat line that Brutes sometimes play. And if you discard it, you make a Gold Kiss Rum, which you can then tap your hero, which is basically no cost in a Brute, and your next action gets go again. So I've heard some people talk about like KO can do like tap a Rum, double cast Bones for example. The other obvious combination with this is Blood Rush Bellows. You're often trying to like get the Blood Rush Bellows and then get the hand that can do the thing and has the go again and has all the resources and line it all up. Well, when you have the go again on board, that's like one piece that's already there that you don't need to worry about. And that seems pretty good. And you can also potentially combine this with Savage Sash so that maybe you can do some ridiculous like Reinar, Claw, give an attack, go again. I don't know, some big 6 power attack into some big 6 power attack that are 8 power attacks uh because of Blood Rush, or something like this. There's a whole bunch of variations of what you could do, but Sea Legs I think is a pretty meaningful upgrade to Brute. Brute is not a class that's been super relevant. I think Reinar could maybe be good. He like on paper is good into Florian, who seems to be one of the best decks. So maybe there's something here with one of the Brutes. I've heard they're kind of impressive. I sort of suspect they'll fall somewhere like A tier, B tier, where they're fine and like maybe see some play again, but not at the top of the meta. But who knows? It's a pretty big include, I think, for the decks. I think it's like a decent upgrade.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Like, just having an go again on board means that when like Brute's biggest problem was like Brute's kind of wanted to play this like mid-range game that you wanted to block a little bit and attack a little bit, and then like sometimes keep a 4 card hand. Now like they just get to keep a 4 card hand as long as they have a Gold Kiss Rum token on board.
Yep. Yeah, and you get to really pick your spot to do a pop-off turn. You can combine this with like Savage Feast. That's the 1 for 6 discard a card and draw a card. I've heard of this both as like you keep a 2 card hand, you go Tunic, Savage Feast, draw a card, discard Sea Legs. I get a Gold Kiss Rum. I have a card to Arsenal. So you do like a 2 card 6, draw a card, make a rum. Pretty good. Or if you already have the rum, you can give Savage Feast go again, which is sometimes not the easiest thing to do. And when Savage Feast has go, like Brutes will sit there and roll scabs to get extra action points to use Savage Feast. And if you have a rum, you just get to do that for free. So I don't know. Seems pretty sweet. You could like block down to 2 cards, have a Savage Feast in your arsenal, go like pitch a blue Savage, discard Savage Feast. It has go again from the rum, discard a Beast Within, draw 2 cards. I don't know. Seems pretty crazy.
Yeah, that does seem pretty crazy. I just realized something. It says Gold Kiss Rum says your next action this turn gets go again. So it's any action.
Yeah, so you can like double cast Bones with it.
No. So does this mean like you can activate Scab Skin Leathers, give that card go again, and roll for free?
This is a thing you can do with it. I guess if you want 3 action points is the main reason to do this. If you want 2 action points, you should just take the go again.
But the high roll, all you have to do is roll higher than a 4, right? And it's free now.
Yeah, but if all you needed was 2 action points in the first place.
Nah, but sometimes Brutes want 3 action points. That's how you lose some games against Brute, is they roll a 6. Now they only need to roll a 4. Look, all I'm saying is sometimes like I see some Brute players trying to roll a 6 on the Scab Skins, and they roll a 1 and their turn implodes. Now they can just Gold Kiss Rum and then roll for free. I don't know if it's good or not, but at least it's it does give the card go again.
Yes, you're stating a thing you can do. I've heard people talk about this. I was excited about the card because it lets you gamble less as Brute, but I suppose Brute's like gambling, so maybe you can just gamble more, and who knows, maybe that's good enough. I don't know.
If you're in a spot where that's your only way to win. That's your only way to win.
There will be spots where it's right, and the rum can potentially help out. So yeah, no, it's definitely a thing to consider. So yeah, I've also seen like Reiner's sand sketch plans and discard these. I don't know. There's lots of cool stuff you can do with Sea Legs. It's pretty sweet.
Okay, yeah, that's actually kind of interesting because like Yeah, a lot of brute cards don't have go again, and this card gives go again, and it doesn't even have to be attacked. It could be the non-attack action. So
Hmm.
I guess
Hmm.
this means that like other decks that had the same issue of like needing more action points could technically play the sea legs and try and discard it somehow. It's not as free as in brutes, but it might be worth it, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a card to keep an eye on since it's in the generic card pool, and Gold Kiss Rum is an extremely strong token. Yeah, we talked about how good agility was when heavy hitters came out, but when you get to just bank it and cash it in whenever you want, it's essentially like a time snap potion. This is really good.
You know what? You said that insanely well. This is a time snap potion. Holy, yeah, this card is a time snap potion. That's not fair.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't like deal with Spectra in particular, but outside of that, this is yeah, really good.
Yeah, but this is a time snap potion that you didn't have to play as a actual physical card, right? And like, I would want a time snap potion in like a lot of random decks if it was like if it just came out as a token.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and you know, like it does have a delay. Your hero remains tapped, so you can't do like back to back rum turns. But I think overall that's pretty low cost, and you're probably not getting more than 1 to 2 of these in a game, anyways, most of the time, unless it's like a really long game.
Yeah, that would be just unfair if they can make like 2 to 3 rums in a game consistently. Yeah, that means that you see legs and discarded it. Yeah, that's not fair.
I'll also just say, like, this card just has pretty good stats. We've seen Yellow Raging Onslaught not see like a ton of play, but like a tiny bit as like a card that can be like a resource card and can be a 6 power popper. Like Azalea, I think, played Raging Onslaught into Dromai sometimes, for example. This just has that stat line. It blocks 3. You can attack for 6 with it, which is like not good, but it's not bad, you know? So this having like reasonable stats on it in addition to the discard effect makes it, I think, and being yellow just means it's kind of flexible. It's definitely not a card for most decks, but if it is a card for your deck, I think it can do a lot of small things pretty nicely.
Yeah, that makes sense. You want to move on and just talk about the predictions of US Nats and close out the episode that way?
Yeah. So what hero do you think will win US Nats or will do really well at US Nats?
Well, I think I'm just gonna put my vote into Florian right now. I think that is the one deck that still gets to do like the most fundamentally strong thing in all the heroes that at least I can think of right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna be boring and also put my vote in Florian. He's still just good. He ate some bans. Honestly, this deck's just still strong. I think that in all the like little bits of testing I've seen, people will like run a deck, play it into Florian, and it's like, how does the Florian matchup goes? Florian lost some cards, or they're trying the new heroes. Let's try it into Florian, and it's just like Florian's still really good. And I don't know if I've found the reason to not play Florian yet. He has some bad matchups, like yeah, you don't want to play Kano, you don't want to play against Verdance. There's decks that can target him. You know what? All these decks have bad matchups, and I think that Florian's baseline is just so high, and into so much of the like random decks, he just gets so much equity that I think he's just like overall the strongest deck right now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see people lock in on Florian, especially with such limited time, especially with limited card availability, especially with a super complicated limited format. I think just locking in Florian and being like maybe a month ago and just being like, yep, he's still good. Okay, I'm just going to draft, and that's my Nat strat. I kind of expect a lot of players to just maybe default to something like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like LSS did a good thing of banning these like power cards from Florian that aren't even just power cards, they're kind of like cards that make sure that they can't lose to some specific like strategies. And I'm very okay with, removing these cards from Florian so they have at least some kind of weakness, right? Like before with Germinate, like you play a long game against Florian, you're just dead sometimes to the Germinate, and like there's like nothing you could have done about it. They got rid of Germinate, and now it's like, okay, now you can play a slow, grindy game into Florian, have a chance.
I feel like Germinate was this like invisible card where in so many matchups, you never played Germinate, or like you would very rarely cast Germinate, but people just know because Germinate's in your deck you can't take Florian super long because he's just going to germinate. So it's just like there's like a bunch of strategies that are just like cut off by the existence of this card. It's sort of like how like fatiguing Icelander was really tough because she just had the Frostex combo in her blue base and it was just there. And most of the time you never used it. But if somebody was out there and wanted to fatigue you, you just got to like blow them up for it. Germinate had sort of like a very similar effect where a lot of times this is just like an Earth block three NAA that occasionally you'll cast for like X's6 for a bit of value. But most of the time it's just kind of like there as a you don't get to play these types of strategies into me, which is really strong for a blue block three, especially Earth card in a deck that cares about decomposing.
Yeah, you say it's like kind of like invisible, but as a player that plays a lot of fatigue type strategies and blocking strategies, that card is not invisible. Like that is the biggest reason of like that is the one card you're thinking about the whole time. And at least to me is like no, like I agree with you. Like when you're playing some aggro deck, that card is just a 3 block earth card. It's really good in Florian and it never gets played. When I play against a Florian, they resolve 3 germinates on me like every other game. It's like
I guess what I mean by invisible is like I feel like so many of the defensive decks had to pivot to being aggressive just because they didn't want to play into Germinate and not make the game about Germinate. But then, and it's like, so like in a lot of these, it's like Florian like doesn't end up casting it, but it's like because it's in his deck, you have to like completely warp your game plan to like not play into Germinate. Is kind of what I mean by it's like invisible. Like I think the amount that it got cast into a lot of decks ended up being low just because like people were shifting their strategies to like not play into it, but it was like very much warping the way that a lot of the games were playing. If your deck just like couldn't be proactive, then yeah, you got slammed by Germinates, and I'm sure that you felt it. But a lot of decks would try to like kind of pivot off of their main game plan, and I think this card just like being in the deck and forcing people to do that was just really strong.
then I guess the last question for this episode CC focused. What do you think you're gonna be playing for Nats? Arcan Nats is in what is this? The 20th, so that's 17 days from now. It's quite a long ways out, but do you have an idea who you want to play?
I want to play Gravy Bones. We'll see if that comes to fruition or not. We kind of talked about it earlier. There's a bunch of matchups I need to test that could be bad, and who knows? Maybe he's just not good enough. But so far, I'm really high in the deck. I've been really pleased with all of my initial testing, and I've just been having fun. So I don't know. As long as he's like a solid competitive choice, which I think he will be. I think I've played enough matchups where I'm like, yes, this has real game here, and his card pool and his kit feels big enough that you should be able to shore up some of the other bad matchups. That even if I have a few not so desirable matchups, I feel like he'll be still a pretty good choice. I kind of mentioned this earlier. I think every deck in this format has some decks that they just don't want to see, and that's pretty much the case across the board. Maybe like I don't even know. Marionette has kind of a flat matchup spread. I think he's quite good, but he's like not good into Florian, which is tough. Like he has like a fine matchup into Florian, but you're unfavored, and then you're like solid into everything else. But I'm like, do I want to play a deck that's like solid into everything and then unfavored into the best deck? Like, I don't know. It doesn't sound so great.
You're right. It doesn't sound that great.
It's like if I'm like crushing everything else, sure, but yeah, I don't know. Being I don't know. Every deck just seems like it has problems right now, which is good if you like open metas, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. It is a good open meta, but yeah, we'll see what happens at US Nats, right? That's really gonna warp what happens at Can Nats.
Yeah, I think so. And then calling Bologna might also inform a little bit of what happens. So yeah, we'll have to see what the upcoming events are. We'll have a better idea then. But these are our best guesses based on the limited information that we have so far. Anything else before we wrap up the episode, Jay?
No, I think I've kind of said everything that I know about CC. I haven't really been testing CC, so I don't have any like hot takes. But yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to say at least about CC.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. It's still super early. If you're stressed out about US Nats, I've talked to quite a few people that are in coaching and just friends and whatnot. Just remember, nobody really knows what's happening. It's super early in the format. You're playing on release weekend. it's okay to not have mastered limited and to not have tested extensively into all the new decks and to know what the best deck is. Nobody knows. So just, you know, rely on the practice that you've done, understand that it's not going to be, like a perfect preparation kind of situation, and just do the best that you can. That's kind of like my advice to anybody playing US Nats. There's no use stressing out about it. Everybody's going to be a little bit like under prepped compared to where you're used to being, and that's just kind of, I think, part of this event.
Don't stress over things you can't control, and do the best you can with the things you can't control.
All right, that's going to be a wrap. If you want to find us on social media, Jay's at Ueda J. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
At Ueda J on Twitter, and I'm at Yuki Lee Bender over on Twitter or X. I'm also at Yuki Lee Bender on Blue Sky. If you want to check out our Patreon, that's patreon.com/onthebobble. Realize we forgot to shout out our patrons. We need to get better at this. Thank you so much to all of our patrons. We really appreciate what you do, and we couldn't be doing the show without you. If you want to check out a limited guide, there is a recent limited guide posted for High Seas on the Patreon. It went up a couple of days ago, and sort of just talking about my experience from the world premiere in Taipei and what I learned about the format. So if you're kind of looking for a jump start to get into Nats or get into drafting, I would recommend you check that out. And yeah, that's going to be it. All right. Thanks, everyone. Good luck with your Nats, and thank you all for listening. Any sign off?
Yeah, just a real quick one. So yesterday night, okay, actually, let's go back a little bit more. So at this U.S. Nationals weekend on Thursday of this event, there is a judge conference for this event, and like anyone can sign up for the judge conference as long as you're an L1 judge, and to be an L1 judge, you have to do the exams. But a couple of months ago, maybe like 3 months ago or so, Judge Hub did kind of like a little purge of all of the L1s that were just like L1s for a long time, but weren't actually like doing anything with it. Um, and I was one of them. I was an L1 at one point, and I got purged and it was really easy to get avoiding that purge. You just had to retake the judge exam, but I had like very little reason to retake the judge exam. So I was like, I'll do it someday. I'll do it someday. I'll do it someday. And then my, L1 expired essentially. So last night I um was like, oh, I should sign up for this judge conference because I'm going to be in Vegas anyways on Thursday. And I was just like, oh, yeah, I can do this judge exam anytime. I said this about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then last night, I was just like, wait, I'm flying out tomorrow. I need to do this judge exam. So I was up until like 5 a.m. last night just doing the judge exam because I started at like 3 a.m. So yeah, it was a long night for me last night. I can't discuss any of the actual rulings from the judge exams, but I would recommend if you are like, trying to like get better at the game to just like go on Judge Hub and take the L1 or even the L0 exam. It has like a lot of like rulings that are pretty simple, but like kind of like make you, double check your rulings and like double check what the actual policy is. And I found it was a good exercise to like. It is an open book exam, so I found it was a really good exercise to just like, you know, refamiliar refamiliarize myself with the rules and like the policies that are in place for this game.
So, oh, it's so funny that you brought this up. I have a question. Did you pass the exam?
Yeah, I passed the exam. I got 100% on the. Let me check what the exam is called. I got 100% on the um level one's rules test, and I got 2 questions wrong on the policy test. I can't discuss the
Gotcha.
actual question, but there's one question on the policy test that I kind of disagree with, but the other one, it was some weird multiple choice
I
that
wonder if I
I
know the
got wrong.
question. But anyways, yeah, we can't discuss it openly, but I wonder if I know the question. Part of the reason I ask, I was in a very similar situation in Taipei where I realized my judge uh, status had lapsed, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna sign up for the judge conference." My friend mentioned it kind of last minute. I was like, "Oh, I'll sign up for the judge conference," and then I went to sign up. I'm like, "Oh no, my thing's lapsed." And like it's like tomorrow, so like I have to do it today. And I had been out, kind of like we just been like going out like all day exploring Taipei, doing stuff like that, which was a lot of fun. So I was pretty tired. I had also like already had a couple of drinks, and I'm like, I can still do this exam. I don't need help from my friends. Like you're not supposed to get help from your friends anyways. I'm like, I don't need to double check. I'm not gonna like cheat on this exam. I'm gonna do it myself. It'll be fine. And I go through. I'm doing it, and I did not pass. I was one question short of passing, and I'll say that there was one question I definitely got wrong, and there was like 3 questions where I just failed basic reading comprehension. It was just like I can't fully discuss like the thing, but like it said like you have not done something, and I thought it said that you had done something, and I just like got it wrong. And there was another one where I was like, I'm pretty sure the answer is this, and I'm like looking through all the answers. I'm like, maybe they didn't want to get that technical with it. Like maybe I'm being too specific. I guess they didn't include that as one of the options, so I'll just pick this one because like functionally it plays out the exact same way. And then I'm reviewing the answers, and I'm like, the answer that I was thinking of was there all along. I just like couldn't find it. So yeah, I tried to do the same thing as you, and I did not succeed. It was kind of funny. I felt kind of stupid, but you know what? I had work to do that day anyways, so it's probably just as well that I stayed in. But it's funny that you brought it up because I was like, no way, I just did this like a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Did you which one did you fail? Was it the policy test or was it the rules test?
It was a rules test.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
It was majority reading comprehension errors on my end, probably a result of like doing it at the end of the day when I was tired and have been drinking. But you know, that is what it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing any kind of test drunk. So yeah, I guess this is also one of them. Don't do it drunk.
It wasn't my original plan. I just like kind of got told about it, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll just do it now. But it was like, you know, kind of already too late. So
Fair
not the
enough.
optimal way to do it, but I was just like, I'm not going to do it in the morning, so I'll just do it now. And then yeah, didn't go so well.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, I think we can wrap it up here then.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, see ya.